What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I'm going to be installing an S&B cold air intake in my 2006 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD LBZ Duramax. But before I get it installed, I'm going to actually do one final drive with the factory intake. But here's the S&B intake. Look at the size of this filter, much larger than stock. Absolutely massive. I went with the dry filter, not the oiled filter, simply because the horsepower difference between the oiled and the dry is not that much. But with the oiled filters, it's kind of a pain. You got to constantly clean them and oil them, and the oil gets inside of your intake tube. And then look at the size of this intake tube. I mean, it is absolutely massive. I don't know the actual measurement, but looks like about 5 inches in diameter. So we're going to get a lot more airflow than the stock tube. And I'll do a comparison between the stock tube and the S&B tube. And then here's our box right here. Massive box for the filter. I also got a couple of pre-filters for off-roading, so I can wrap this with a waterproof pre-filter in case water splashes into the intake. And what I really like about the S&B intakes in particular is they have this clear glass, or not glass, polycarbonate, so you can see through and check the condition of your filter, and it just has this tab so you can easily just pull it off. So I'm going to do my test drive now, take a data log, and then we'll install it. Take a drive after, and we'll see if there's any difference in the data logs and in the butt dyno and how the pedal feels, if there's any difference in throttle response or turbo spool up. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I am running a DSP5 switch, and I have it set to number 4 for everyday driving, so that's like plus 100 horsepower. I also have a 5-inch straight pipe exhaust, EGR delete, cat delete, PCV reroute. I'm basically 100% emissions free, completely deleted. So just so you guys are aware of what I'm running. So let's see what happens, guys. All right, guys, so first thing I did, disconnected both batteries just to be on the safe side, disconnected the MAF sensor. These MAF sensors are super easy to disconnect on the older Silverados. Literally just pull that, push down on the tab and just pull it out. You can see it had some dirt in there. I'll probably clean that up with a little alcohol. So let's continue. All right, guys, so there's our intake horn. Just got to remove this tray here now. Directions say remove these 5 bolts here and take that tray out. So that's what we're going to do and save the bolts. All right, guys, so with the old intake removed, it's a good idea to kind of just check some of your hoses here, some of your cooling system hoses, see if any of these hoses are cracked, or if they look good, they look tight, if there's any leaks. Get good visibility to all the hoses here. So got your coolant hoses here, and here you have your EGR delete pipe. So I didn't actually install it, so I'm going to double check and make sure that that clamp there is tight. But got this plastic shield here. They want us to remove that, so just got to pry it out. It's held in place by push pins. So here's the plastic shield. Got these 4 push pins. I think I broke one off here, but these are actually pretty hard to get out. I had to pull on them pretty hard. They didn't come out easy. GM really made it tough to get this thing out. Alright guys, just wanted to give you a visual comparison between the two. So we got S&B here and the factory one there. The S&B tube is so much larger, much bigger tube compared to the factory tube. Is definitely skinnier, not quite as large in diameter, and it's got that accordion here which disrupts the airflow. So let me see if I can do a side by side here. You can see how much bigger the S&B is compared to the factory. And one thing to keep in mind when you're installing this, just make sure you don't get any debris in here, because that could get sucked right into your engine. Same thing, your intake horn there, just make sure you don't drop anything in there, a nut or something, or debris or whatever. Just make sure it's clean before you reinstall. And what we'll do is we'll actually take this apart here. It's got this interesting suction system here. You can see how it's look at how dirty that is. There's like crap in there. Look at this. I don't even know how it was sucking any air. Look at all the debris in there. Absolutely insane. Let me see if I can shine a light in there. Look at that crud in there. Look at that. I don't even know how my engine was working like this. So we'll take this apart, look at the filters, and compare the filters now. So looking at the S&B filter versus the factory filter, you can see the difference here. It's much taller, completely different design in the way that it sucks the air. The factory filter sucks the air like through the center here, versus the S&B sucks the air from all around it. So completely different, but look at how dirty this filter is. Absolutely insane. But let's get to finishing the install here now. All right guys, so installed 3 bolts here, 2 provided by S&B, one there, and then reused one of the old bolts there. These were actually pretty tough to get in, especially this one in here, because it's kind of tucked in, you see that? So you can't get a socket in there. So I had to just use a regular wrench. Regular ratcheting wrench makes your life super easy installing these, especially this one here. You're not going to be able to get a socket around that. So a ratcheting wrench, and then to snug up, just standard wrench, small wrench. I'll show you what I use. Just one of these guys, and snug it down with this end. Get it down to where it's almost snug with this. So now we're ready to put the rest of the intake together. Almost done. So now we just got to remove the MAF sensor here and the filter minder and transfer to the S&B. To get the filter minder out, you're just going to literally pull it straight out. It just sits in a grommet here. Just pull it straight out. And then to get the MAF sensor off, just some hex screws there, and I'm going to clean the outside of it there. You can see it's pretty dirty. All right guys, installed the MAF sensor. You're going to put the foam gasket first, then you're going to put the plastic thing on top, and then your MAF sensor on top. And you're going to want to have the flat part of that spacer facing the foam, and you're just going to tighten down using the supplied screws until they don't go down anymore. And it's a good idea to take a look at your MAF sensor while you have it out. Make sure it's clean. Mine was super clean. So let's continue. All right guys, so it was a little bit of a pain to get this thing in here because the directions tell you to put the boot on first on the elbow and then try to slide it over the intake horn. But the problem is you have this AC line here, and that makes it impossible to slide the boot over the intake horn. So what you're going to want to do is, if you have the same setup as I do, what you're going to want to do is slide the boot over the horn first, then tighten it down and slide the elbow and tighten it down. Definitely want to make sure that those clamps are nice and tight and everything sits good. Give it a good shake. Make sure it's nice and tight, everything's tight. All right guys, now it's time to just slide the filter over and clamp it down. So we're almost done. All right guys, air filter is in. Everything is ready to go. Just gonna reconnect the mass airflow sensor right now. There we go. Hear the click. May actually touch up these wires with some liquid electrical tape, just because it's an old truck and the insulation wears out over time on those exposed wires. But that's the finished product. Just do some final checks, wiggle everything, make sure everything's tight. Wiggle your filter, make sure your filter's nice and tight, everything is tight. Just give it a quick check. I gotta re-zip tie my block heater cord here, and then we gotta put the cover on. All right, guys, the intake is installed. I think it looks so much better than the factory intake. What I like is this clear plexiglass you can see through and check the status of your filter, how dirty it is. Now, S&B does give you a block off cover, and you should keep that in your truck just in case you're driving through deep water or lots of snow, and that would just go on this side. Let me show you just this little piece of rubber here. I also got some pre-filters that I can throw over this if I'm driving through dusty conditions, or there's lots of bugs, or potentially going through deep water. These pre-filters are water repellent, so you can throw that on there. But I'm just gonna zip tie back my block heater cord, reconnect the batteries, and then we'll start it up and listen for any unusual noises, and then we'll take it for a test drive. All right, guys, just listening for any unusual sounds. Everything sounds good. Everything's solid. Any kind of weird hissing noises, I don't hear anything. Sounds great. We'll take it for a test drive now. I think it looks awesome. Check it out. S&B. All right, guys, just did a little test drive. Seems to be slightly more responsive. Could definitely feel it a little bit more responsive than before. The turbo seems to spool up faster. There's less of a turbo lag, and at low RPMs it doesn't struggle as much to get some air. So I haven't done any wide open throttle pulls yet, but I might do one here in just a minute and record a data log. But there you guys have it, S&B cold air intake. Try to do a little wide open throttle here. Definitely spools up faster. Definitely spools up faster.